Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Grid Talk podcast. This is the Chinese Grand Prix review. We might be streaming on a good few channels that we're not normally streaming on tonight. So, welcome to everybody on the YouTube chat. Welcome to everybody on my Twitch chat. And we have a full house of people. Just give me 2 seconds, and here they are. There's Wajid and Paul joining us again from.
Hello.
I have clicked knock on you, by the way, Paul.
Have you accepted it? Have you?
Have you sent me one?
Yeah, I sent you one. All right, I think we could do it either way.
Oh, there we go. Right.
Is that doing
it? Now this time, I just got
something went wrong. Please try again. Something went wrong.
No,
please try again.
I've got you.
You got me?
Yeah. We're just
Okay.
trying.
I keep hitting accept and it says something went wrong, so I don't know what's going on. But we should be alright.
I've literally got on my screen you and me sitting in a room together.
Okay, alright, let me just put you on.
It's getting very
There we go.
It's okay, don't worry.
There we go. We got there in the end. Technical gremlins and all that. Or lack of skill or talent.
Yeah, so hello everybody. Welcome to
Hello.
What You See in StreamYard. Paul, if you look in the bottom right hand corner, you might be able to make it a full screen.
Yay.
So
Thank
you
God
don't
for that.
have to-
Right, that was what I wanted to do.
That's better.
Yeah, there we go.
Not that I'm watching his channel.
Yeah, it's still saying. It's still saying it wants to collaborate, and I have to press accept.
Well, I'll just
I don't
accept
know.
it.
Whatever.
Oh yeah, here we go. Accept. There we go. Something went wrong. Please try again.
Yeah, that's what mine keeps saying as well. But I think we are actually. Or are we?
No, it says cancelled. So if you send it again,
Right. Okay.
hopefully it'll come up on the right page this time.
Yeah, it says Motor Magpie with red eye on yours. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
It's done.
So it's done.
Yeah, it is done. Yeah, I don't know. This is
It's
two
all-
old people trying to do technology live.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
We'll figure out for next.
Yeah, we'll get it right next time. If not,
Yeah,
anything
we'll be
else.
fine.
Anyway, welcome to all
Hello,
viewers
boys.
on Red Eye's channel. Let's start with some fun breaking news. Now, I'm going to say it's breaking news.
Heartbreaking news.
It's not really breaking news, is it? It's what you've all been waiting for since since probably sprint qualifying on Friday. Red Bull have apparently made the shock decision. I'm not sure it's really a shock decision to drop Liam Lawson after just 2 Grand Prix, and Yuki Tsunoda will get the chance in Japan. Now, what we're hearing is that this is only Japan. Paul has had his
At the moment we're hearing it's for Japan at the moment. I think what they're saying is that it's for Japan right now because they don't know how it's going to pan out in Japan. It could be that Lawson is like shit hot quick in the racing balls and Tsunoda's shit in the Red Bull. In which case they go, oh, it's the fucking car. So actually we'll just switch them back round again. Or it could be that Tsunoda has a great weekend because he's at home and what have you, and the Red Bull and he's excited and what have you, and Lawson does shit in the racing balls. In which case, I guess they continue their conversations with Flavio Briatore about extracting Colapinto to replace Lawson at racing balls because that apparently is what they were talking about on Sunday night. So yeah, who knows now?
Yeah, but it's an image of them two with Stefano Minicale in the airport discussing things. They could have been discussing what they're going to eat on the plane, to be fair, but we've got to make
absolutely. Who knows? I would say, David, as well, if you check the link I've just sent you, I posted the Racing Bulls SF23 yesterday on Training Paints. If you check the number I put on the car, I was rather cheeky.
Oh yes, very nicely done. Very nicely done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're hearing. I mean, this is also come from the Dutch racing news press, which normally get a lot of details off Verstappen's contacts, Dornbos, Connells. You know, so it's normally thereabouts. So this came out 8 o'clock tonight. So it's been reported. And we hastened. It's not an announcement.
Yeah, it's not confirmed. I got told about 5 o'clock this afternoon it was, quote, imminent, which could mean tonight or could mean tomorrow.
Well, I wouldn't put my house on it just yet, but that's because I've got nothing else to buy.
No, I wouldn't either.
I would maybe put my car on it, though. Honda, in the winter, offered €10 million to guarantee Tsunoda the drive. it's claimed that obviously the Japanese manufacturer already pay Racing Bulls 10 million euros for that drive, and it was rebuffed because Horner favoured Lawson. It's been suggested that Honda have been approached now by Red Bull saying, how much are you willing to pay for Tsunoda to get the drive? And
which is why I'm told it's only a one race deal for now.
Yeah, Honda have said
because they
millions.
Yeah, so they've said bugger off basically.
Yeah,
because
Honda
now they're at the point where they don't have to pay it because they need a bloody driver to replace Lawson, so they don't care anymore. So they've done a deal for this race at Honda's home track, and that's it. There's no other deal right now.
I mean, the worst thing of it all is, and we'll bring Wajid's view in on this in a minute, is that Lawson knows Suzuka.
He does from Super Formula. Yep.
So out of all the tracks,
that's why I thought they would give him another chance and keep it. But I think the problem is we've also got 3 races back to back. So although this is a one race deal, I think in theory it's more likely it's going to be for the 3, right? Because they don't really want to chop and change drivers every other race. And also, I'm fairly sure there's still an F1 rule in place that says you can't do that. You can't make there's only so many driver changes you can make during. You can't change the driver every race.
There's only so many driver changes because.
I think.
I can't remember how many it was, but it's not many.
I think your number 1 has to be your number 1, and I haven't heard of a replacing Max just yet. But I do believe you can have 2 or 3 replacements.
Yeah, I think it's 3 changes through the season. I think that's the absolute maximum.
Yeah, I think the maximum drivers you can have is 5.
Because like Toro Rosso had it with Kvyat, didn't they? And Hartley and
wasn't there a team last year that may or not had to have raced with 1 driver because they'd already changed 3 drivers last year. I've forgotten who.
I don't think it was last year or the year before. But I know at some point there has been one of those calls where they couldn't change a driver.
Was, going back a little bit further, 1995 Ligier. With Brundle and Suzuki sharing the seat.
Yeah.
And
that's what brought the rule in.
Race.
Yeah, and that's what brought the rule in, funnily enough. It was just after that the rule came in because they didn't like the fact that they didn't, even if they'd said, we're going to alternate it, they never really did. They did 3 in a row or 2 in a row or whatever. And then they just said, look, it's not great for PR. We can't guarantee the race organisers which drivers are going to turn up. They ask for discounts if we bring the wrong drivers or we don't bring the right team. So no more. We have to declare and that's it. Yeah. And that's when they brought in I think it's a maximum 3 changes they can make. Therefore, like Wajid said, 5 drivers maximum through the team.
Well, save us going on to this topic again a little bit later on, which obviously will pop up every now and again. Wajid, correct decision for Red Bull, or is it too soon?
It's an interesting one because I don't think Lawson was the right driver for the seat in the first place, given last year. So, it's a shame for Lawson if this is the truth. However, my feelings towards a certain Mr. Marco and him looking like a total wanker, given how he started the season talking about doing his little digs at Lewis and others, and the fact he said Yuki essentially wasn't good enough last year, that sort of vindicates that he just looks like a total ass. And again, Helmut Marko, don't know why he has a job at Red Bull, still has no idea what the hell he's talking about when he talks about something. And this famed Red Bull Academy famed Red Bull Academy driving thing, yet again, it's throwing someone into the deep end for no reason whatsoever, and then leaving them to get essentially slaughtered by the dogs. It's a shame for Lawson because I mean none of us, if any of us were in that position, let's be honest, none of us are turning down a Red Bull seat. What would you like, the Visa Cash App? Would you like the Visa Cash App, MasterCard, American Express, PayPal, or would you like the Red Bull? So I understand from his point of view. Hopefully, for his sake, it's not a death sentence like Kvyat, for example, and it's just like a bump in the road, a la Gasly and Albon. but we'll see. He's because he's really not giving himself any favors in these first opening 2 races either. Like, to be worse than Checo is really saying something.
Yeah.
So that's all my opinion on it.
Paul, obviously, we've never seen anybody get dumped by Red Bull and brought back into that Red Bull seat once they've been rejected to Toro Rosso, AlphaTauri. Actually, I realised this weekend it's not just Visa Cash App Racing Bulls; it's Visa Cash App Racing Bulls Honda Rupiter. So it's even longer. But yeah, can you see Lawson getting back from this?
I don't know. I think this is a little bit different from the Checo issue and the rough second driver thing. I think this is more to do with the car more than it is to do with the driving. So I think Lawson has obviously admitted publicly already that he is struggling with the car, that he can't cope with what it's giving him, and he doesn't understand it. And he seems, even in the interviews, although he's being very honest and blunt, he seems a bit out there, doesn't he? He seems a bit lost. And so I think from that point of view, it is partially to do with Liam, but it's also to do with the car. And I think putting Yuki in for Japan, which, you know, we've been talking about this since the weekend, really, makes a lot of sense from an engineering point of view, because it allows them to go, okay, look, we don't understand why this car is so bad in Liam's hands, and yet Max can do these things with it. Now, it's either Max is extraordinary, which we already kind of know he is, but is he that extraordinary or that more extraordinary that he can extract it out of this car? And a lot of it's down to driver styles more than it is anything else. And that car is obviously very difficult to drive, and Max can drive around it because he's a world-class driver with a lot of experience. Maybe Yuki can too, because he's got, 4 and a bit years of experience now. But Liam can't, and it's quite obvious that he can't. So I think what they're looking for is affirmation that it's the car. And the only way they do that, really, is by putting Yuki in it for a weekend and seeing whether he has the same issues. And if he has the same issues, then you just go, okay, it's the car, we need to re-engineer, we need to change it, we need to bring upgrades and what have you. Let's just get Liam back in the car and carry on. And I think that's the only saving grace for him, really. But my feeling is, although I've been told it's a one-race deal for now, and I think that's more to barter with Honda for money more than anything else, I think probably Yuki will be in there for the next 3 races, because they're all back-to-back, right, over 2 weeks. So 2 weeks, 3 weekends. Doesn't really make much sense to put Yuki in one weekend and then look Liam in the following week. They've got 2 races of data to look at for now for Liam in various conditions, and I think they can compare that to what they get from Yuki for the race. So yeah, I think it's very difficult to see how he gets back, but there is a sliver of hope in the sense that if Yuki is just as terrible in the car, then they'll probably swap him back, because it doesn't make any sense to leave Yuki away from the team he's already been with and he knows the car inside out, because we do know he's very quick in the racing bulls this season. So it doesn't make any sense to keep him in Red Bull if he's just going to be terrible, does it?
Yeah, it seems like the logical step. I mean, I'm going to go back to October, November time. We did these podcasts. I came in quite bullishly. Could we see Danny Rick back on the grid this season?
No.
Okay,
absolutely not. No,
and
that's from him. That's not from me. That's from him. He's already publicly said, he's done. As far as he had a second shot. He worked hard for that second shot and he didn't take it, and he knows he didn't take it. And as far as he's concerned, he's done with F1. Cadillac they won't even touch him with Cadillac apparently either. So he's done.
Yeah, because I've just been having, while you were both talking, looking at the current Red Bull crop of young drivers which are done before.
So the Lindblad story is the only other one that popped up over the weekend, which was that they were talking about if they couldn't get Colapinto to come across and then be a replacement, if they like, for Lawson, so that we could keep Lawson away from any of the teams, there was a chance that they'd bring Lindblad in and put him in the Racing Bulls instead and give Lawson some time out completely away from F1. But apparently they can't get a special dispensation for Lindblad because they don't believe he's got enough experience to compete. And that comes down to the fact he's still 17, he's not 18 till August, and he hasn't got a UK driving licence. So the FIA can legitimately say he might have 45 super licence points, but he ain't getting a super licence until he's done the other 2 things.
And I think, obviously, we watched F3, F2 over the Australian Grand Prix weekend.
Yeah.
And Tim Tramnitz didn't exactly sit there and go, yes, I need to be in the Red Bull. So after that, you're really looking at possibly Rocco Coronel and Ginetta Juniors.
Yeah, you're looking at outside of the top 3. Yeah, you're looking beyond Frecker basically right now, and there's no one there that is ready for F1 or even got enough super license points.
I mean,
So you're looking at like 3 or 4 driving. Pepe Marti has got enough super license points and is eligible.
Yeah.
Do you promote him? Really?
No.
Dreadful season last year. Dreadful start to this season. Like, why would you promote him?
Yeah.
Lindblad's the obvious one because he's the next Max Verstappen as far as Red Bull are concerned. But he hasn't shown anything in F2 yet. He's got to find his feet, you know. And like you say, Tim Tramnett's a good driver, but he's stuck in F3 for a second season. He didn't really do much last season on the back of it. So this Red Bull driver program is the worst it's been in a long time. There used to be a conveyor belt. They used to be queuing up behind them to get in. You know, Lawson's like the last of the last generation of those drivers to be in that pack of drivers of Red Bull to get. And they've let loads go. Don't forget. Yeah, Dennis Hauger's gone off to Indy next. Enzo Fittipaldi's gone as well, so he's left Red Bull. They've lost some of those drivers. I mean, they could go and get Dennis Helger back, I guess, but why would they do that? They didn't rate him in F2. Not going to bring him back from Indy next, are they?
Well, this is.
But they bought Brendan Hartley back. Is my only. You know, they did bring Brendan Hartley back at one point, so okay, maybe they can.
Yeah, I mean,
but that was total desperation at the time.
It was, and they're at that point now, Wajid, aren't they? They literally are. They are desperate.
No, fair point. You're right.
So maybe they do go get Dennis Helger. I don't know.
No, fair point.
Because I've run out of ideas now for Red Bull.
I mean, I've sat there and watched Finn McLaughlin in British Kart Championships the last few years. Obviously very skilled, went off to Europe karting. He's only done a Formula Winter Series.
Yep.
Which he did very well in, finishing second.
But not ready yet.
Yeah, not ready for Formula One. Obviously doesn't have the points. But surely in his head already, it's the pressure on him as a F4 driver to go, hang on a minute, these chances are dropping in front of me, and I'm going to get higher up this order. And it's bizarre that he's done one Winter Series, and he's already going to be possibly fourth in line if Arvid Lindblad picks his way through. Ollie Gerfer, Pepe Martin, Tim Tramnitz, and then it's Rocco Carnell and Finn McLaughlin. Yep. It's just crazy already.
Yeah. And a lot of this is systematic of the system now, right? Because Red Bull used to be one of the few companies that did support the junior drivers. They would have, anything up to 9 or 10 drivers in the junior formula spread across Formula 2 all the way down to GB3 sometimes. And you're talking about 4 or 5, 6 levels of motor racing in the formula levels. So it's quite a deep talent pool. And then all of a sudden the other teams start going, we should do more, really, because this is cheap. We could just do this for couple of £1 million, and actually we've then got 8 or 9 drivers on our books, and one of them might turn out to be the next Schumacher. That's much cheaper. Let's do that. And then Mercedes have done it, and now Ferrari have done it, and Alpine have done it, and Williams have done it, and so suddenly all of the drivers are now, almost all of them in Formula 2. It's very rare for an F2 driver not to have a contract with an F1 team of some kind, whether it's test driver, third driver, junior development driver, whatever it might be. McLaren, same thing. McLaren have got dozens of drivers on their books right now.
McLaren
dozens, not a dozen, dozens.
McLaren are stacked. I don't think people realise how stacked
they are. Insane with how many drivers, and they're good drivers as well. There's some really world-class talent in their ranks right now, and so because all the other teams have done that, and you've then got some other junior teams like Prema who go out and look for these kids when they're in go-karts. Then you've got High Tech doing it, and then you've just got so many options now for the younger drivers, which is fantastic. But it also means Red Bull, their driver program isn't as proactive as it used to be, or successful. You know? Yeah,
I mean they had obviously, the first person who really sponsored was Enrique Binaldi, and getting him into Formula One was an achievement.
It was,
At the end of the day. Yeah. He should have got the Sauber drive instead of Kimi Räikkönen.
Yeah.
But actually, maybe that
Peter Sauber actually had a good head on him.
Yeah.
And understood what talent was rather than money.
Which means, while we think about it, we've still got to think about the 20 drivers who turned up to China this weekend, which is obviously why we're initially here. We've got our predictions. Wajid obviously posted his across last time, so we managed to get everybody's predictions in. I'm guessing we still probably not scored much, but we'll see.
Who knows?
I had the right 5 drivers just in slightly. That's what pissed me off more than anything.
I don't think that
wrong.
counts, Wajid.
I know
That's
it
clutching at straws or something.
I know it doesn't. It's like the third time I've done.
Well,
You still have no point. No, hang on, 1 point, right, for the first race?
Yeah.
1 point.
Yeah.
I've got nothing this week. I can tell you that.
Well,
Jeez.
well,
I can't remember what I
haven't
chose,
yet.
so I couldn't check mine.
But first up, we'll talk about the perfect Piastri, almost, shall we say. Third in sprint qualifying, second in the sprint race, just 7 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton in the end, and then taking pole and race victory. Wajid, Piastri biting back from Australia, but I mean, we don't know about Lando Norris whether that brake issue would have stopped him challenging him, but Piastri looked to have it under control this weekend.
I don't think Lando was catching Oscar, to be perfectly honest, in the race. And yeah, thanks Ross Brawn. Look at all these changes you brought into this series of cars, and look where we're at. The cars can't drive within a second of each other again. Yay! Bring back the V10s. Scrap the next generation. Just keep it 2-3 years. Bring back the V10s.
That's a whole different conversation, isn't it, Aldi?
Yeah. Anyway, I don't care. Just bring back the V10s. Oscar's problem is consistency. Because how do you go from essentially shitting the bed in Australia, which is what he did, had to get that in quick because I missed last week, to he effectively dominated the Chinese Grand Prix, start to finish, comfortable as you like, in total control. Every time he spoke, he was calm, and for some reason, Lando is getting more and more petulant on the radio. I don't know if it's FOM trying to drive to survive stir up, as I'm sure we'll get into later on.
Yeah.
But just Lando just seems petulant every single time he's on the radio, and Lando Norris sees Oscar Piastri as a strong threat for what is supposed to be a Atacanta world title that everyone has been speaking about. And my biggest thing with the McLarens, and which is why I sort of didn't have the McLarens winning the world title anyway, because even if I didn't go head over heart, I would have picked Charles Leclerc, but cheers Ferrari. It is the consistency of Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri I am worried about, and a certain Dutchman in a car that's not strong enough is ruthlessly consistent. And the McLarens need to be like this week in, week out, until everyone gets to Europe, and they need to build the same lead that the Red Bulls did and effectively take what Max did last year, which is just dominate till you get to Europe before people can bring the upgrades and anything like that, and you have a lead to defend just like Max did. And it's a case of everyone else around you needs the results and needs help from people, and you can just pick up a second, pick up a third, pick up a fourth, and just be consistent in podium finishes and top 5 finishes because you've already done the work in the first half of the season. Now, if the rest of the season is like China, then no one bother waking up for any race. Just watch the last 5 laps because it was boring as shit. If the season is like Australia, then we're in for some fun. But fair play to Oscar. It was nearly, as you said, like the perfect points weekend. Well, he didn't get fastest lap, and he didn't get the extra point in the sprint. So out of what 30.
Well, he doesn't get the extra fastest lap anyway this season.
No. Well, out of the extra.
No extra point now.
Well, okay. So sorry, my apologies. So what, out of a potential 33 points, he got 32. Pretty much a perfect.
He missed out on 2 points. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much a perfect weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Paul, obviously, we saw Lando have to fight back from an issue in the sprint, whatever that issue may have been. Overtaking seemed to be a big one.
Driving seemed to be a big one.
Yeah, he came back in the. I keep going to call it the feature race in the Grand Prix. Got the fastest lap of the day, and until about 2 or 3 laps to go, he was there or thereabouts. But then, obviously, the brake issue came in.
Yeah, I mean, I think the brake issue masks the bigger issue, which is that he was slower than Oscar all weekend. And yes, they had a difficult car on Friday, but I also think they were so focused on making sure that the car was set up properly for qualifying the race, they almost didn't care about the sprint. As long as they were there or thereabouts, picked up a few points, stopped anyone else that's in the championship getting too many points more than they did, I think that's job done as far as they used it more as a test session. And that kind of showed with Lando, and they needed it, right? Because he was struggling with the car in the first practice and then during the sprint. So I think in some ways they made a good recovery from where they were. Don't forget, it's still very close. Although they're dominating and they're ahead and they've won both races, it's still very close over every lap, right? There's not much in it. There's a tenth or two between the top 4 or 5 cars at the moment. Not teams so much, but cars. But I think the biggest issue they've got, and Wajid kind of touched on it, for me, is that they do need to score as many points as they can whilst we're away from Europe, because in a similar way to Max did last year, they're going to get caught, right? And once they get caught, it's then a decision of, well, do we dump the development for next year, or do we carry on trying to win this year? And other teams have got different priorities than McLaren, so they've got to be careful and they've got to maximise it. The difficulty they've got is this. They've got 2 drivers doing that, okay? Whereas last year, Max only had 1. So the teams that are going to benefit from this, really, weirdly, at the moment, are probably Mercedes, where Russell seems to be the main man and Antonelli can't match him, so therefore Russell's going to pick up big points when he's able to pick up big points. And Max, obviously, when he's got no teammate that can drive the other car, he's also going to maximise his points and not have his teammate fighting him. McLaren are always going to have each other fighting them. And so they're going to take points off each other. So neither of them are going to be able to maximise their points before we end up going back to Europe at round 8. So I actually think this is working against them in some ways, because in a weird sort of way, Red Bull and Mercedes are in a better position. You know, Ferrari and McLaren, they've literally got 2 drivers that are going to take points off each other.
I really hate hearing Europe at round 8. No,
so
Imola should be
away.
round 4. It's always been round 4. And
No, round 3, David, if you want to really go. But I always remember Imola was round 3, Monaco was round 4. That was how it used to be.
You always went to Brazil for the second race.
Brazil first.
Well, so.
Brazil first.
I don't.
It was the opening Grand Prix.
I'm not young enough to remember Brazil as number 1. I'm young enough to
Jacara Pagua in Rio de Janeiro, I might have you add.
The youngest I remember is Australia being the last race at Adelaide.
I was making Grand Prix 2 car sets and putting them on the internet before Wajid was born.
Oh, he's going back on that from earlier.
And
it's not something I'm proud of, by the way. It's not a boast. It's like, holy shit, damn it!
And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, my hairline is where it is on the
and why Paul has been making changes for countless years. Anyway.
Indeed. Thank you. Moving on.
Obviously, McLaren did the best they could this weekend. Do we think maybe if this was last season, that Lando would have run out of brakes, he would have tried to still win the race, and because it started from second race of the season, he went second place, it'll do. If not, I'm going to have no brakes and not finish anyway.
Well, he got reminded of that, didn't he, on the radio? Will Joseph said to him, Lando, we talked about this before, and we said, and we agreed, we'd rather finish second than not finish at all. And he went, yeah, all right. And he still did a faster lap. So he hasn't learned.
And in total fairness, his brakes had gone. It's just
by the last lap, the last lap and a half, right? He lost 8 seconds. So I think by then he suddenly went, oh shit, actually I better look after this car because I'm actually not going to finish.
It is only because they had a big enough gap to George Russell in third that he finished where he did. I understand what you're saying, but for my opinion, it is only because that car is as quick as it is that he finished second.
Of course.
That was still the same petulant Lando that we saw last year that thinks he knows better than the people around him. And
he had to be reminded, didn't he, on the radio?
Consistently, and he's lucky he didn't get taught a lesson.
Yeah, I think he got away with one this weekend, and I don't think he was as fast as Oscar. And I think Oscar controlled that gap very well, and I think Oscar had plenty of pace in that car if he really needed to use it. So even if he didn't have a brake problem, I don't think Lando would have caught him.
100%.
Okay, well, that's blown my next idea. Anyway,
Wajid and Paul ruining podcasts since 2024.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry, 2023.
Lando did manage to get the points. So still leads the championship. You know, he did what he needed to do, which is come away from the race with what is an extended lead. He now has a 9-point lead over Max Verstappen. He has a 10-point lead over George Russell. I mean, Christ, we're the most consistent, unknown third place in the championship ever.
I haven't seen him on camera yet in either Grand Prix.
Oh, I did. He took his helmet off and did his L'Oreal on.
Oh, I did that. I saw that, but I haven't seen his car. I haven't seen him driving for the two Grand Prix.
The only time I've seen the car is when it's parked in Park Ferme for like.
Yeah.
You only have that
he's just quietly got on with it and ended up with a couple of podiums, didn't he? He's like, oh, okay, good job, George.
We'll talk about people fighting back, but they fought back and then cocked it up again. Oh, Ferrari. Yes, Wajid. We're back to those days already. Lewis Hamilton, finally. I mean, people say, "Oh, he's took a victory." Has he took a victory? It's a sprint win, but it's got a monkey off his back.
No, it doesn't count. Sorry, it does not count. I'm not doing this shit. It doesn't count.
Yeah, but surely it just helps a little bit for Lewis and Ferrari's confidence to go. Yes, it was only 19 laps compared to 50 odd, but at least we were leading. We were pulling away. We had this really good way.
I think his qualifying pace this weekend is a bigger monkey off the back than the sprint victory.
Yeah,
in my opinion, because the thing that everyone has looked at Lewis, especially against George last year, was how bad he was in qualifying, and the general consensus is Charles is the quickest over one lap on the grid, consistency aside. And for all intents and purposes, he had Charles's number in quali, all week, and he not in his number. That's probably the wrong way, but he was there or thereabouts. Excuse me, and I think that's a bigger relief, and that's a bigger jump from Australia to China than the sprint race. And just to sort of go further ahead, I don't know what Ferrari did in those 2 hours or 3 hours between the sprint race and quali on the Saturday.
I do.
But
I know what they did.
I'm glad you can explain it.
I know exactly what they did. Yeah.
But do you know when a man is happy with the car and the car is clearly like
I know
the quickest car.
So what they actually did. What they did was no, it's all right. So what they did is Lewis obviously did the sprint and then out-qualified Charles in the sprint by a couple of tenths and then beat him in the race very easily and won that sprint race. And Charles actually posted an apology on Instagram because he was so bad, because he actually felt like he just wasn't driving the car very well, wasn't doing very well at all, couldn't find the setup, went with Lewis's setup and found it useless, went a completely different way. And then Charles said after the sprint, can we try something that we did last year that worked for me? And the team said, yeah, sure. And they then proposed it to Lewis, who said, well, is it going to be even quicker than what we did in the sprint? And they said, we think it will, yeah. So they applied it to Lewis's car, and actually they went backwards. So it's interesting that they were kind of like, we're not happy with where we're at in the sprint because we know the other teams are going to catch us, therefore we're going to try and apply something we think is going to be even better, and actually then found it worse. And of course it's too late, they're in Parc Ferme conditions after qualifying. So weird decision, but again comes back to what I've been talking about for the first two Grand Prix and seemingly for fucking ever, is operationally they're fucking stupid. Like, they just don't seem to be able to get this right. We said it back in Australia. They made a decision to leave two drivers out on a wet track, which they knew couldn't dry in 20 laps. So why did they leave them on hard tyres on a wet track then? Why not just pit them straight away? Doesn't make any sense operationally, right? Strategy-wise, we've also called them out twice now for strategy that they fucked up. They did it again this weekend when they screwed it. They've got great management team. They've got great drivers. They've got seemingly a very good car. They've got great aerodynamicist team. They've got a great chassis building team. They've got a great engineering team. They've got a shit operations team and a shit strategy team. Why can't they fucking focus on that and fix those?
And Paul, just to add, you know the irony is, Charles's pace probably came from him losing the end plate because the 20.
I know.
Yeah,
because they had less drag.
Yeah, because the 20 to 30 points that he lost in terms of his error. That's probably what gave him the pace.
Yeah.
Because Charles was nowhere this weekend, and if they'd gone with that setup,
until they switched to his setup. So he had his setup on the car on the Sunday, and so did Lewis, and it obviously didn't work as well for Lewis, but it worked better for him.
But that's the other stupid thing as well. He said Lewis's setup is working. I am looking at Lewis's setup. Yeah. So, and I think I understand where Lewis has come from in terms of I'm at a new team. I don't wanna blah blah blah. But you're a 7-time world champion. This is where I'm gonna sort of look at Lewis as well. You have spent, and a lot of people in your fan base, the LA Team LH or blah blah blah, have said Mercedes was stifling you, not letting you go down the direction you want because you're always testing blah blah blah. You were happy with the car on Saturday. You were like, you know, when you have limited practice, you have found the perfect setup, and essentially he was on pace with them. He was the only car on pace with the McLarens, and we don't know if Oscar had passed Max earlier. Who knows what would have happened in terms of tyre deck and stuff.
Sure,
but
I also think, Wajid, sorry to interrupt you, but I think there's also an element that we haven't discussed, which is that Ferrari looks good on low fuel and when the temperature's high. Therefore, it seems to work in those conditions, which was exactly what he got in the sprint, right? Then when you put full fuel on the car doesn't look quite so good. It looks a bit slow. It's a bit sluggish coming out of the corners and quite the same pace to it. And it certainly seems to chew through the tyres quicker. So there is definitely a fundamental issue with the way that car works. It works in better conditions when it's on lower fuel, but seemingly not when it's got no fuel in it. Bizarre.
No, absolutely. And I totally agree with your point. But Paul, all that being said, the Lando mistake aside at sprint, he still would have been on the front row in the sprint. So I know what you're saying. Like, but this weekend, whatever setup he had on the Saturday,
it was good.
Was a good enough setup, pace wise, whatever.
Yeah. But they felt that they could do better, I guess. And in some ways, we sort of go, should we praise them for being adventurous? Yeah, I suppose. But at the same time, they're supposed to be leading the championship and trying to win a championship. They're not going to do it by doing that, are they? Experimenting.
But this is where you know, as a sort of a Lewis fanboy in the past, this is where I'm going to like sort of send for Lewis in terms of you have the setup, you have the control. Like everyone knows what Ferrari are capable of in terms of self sabotage.
Yeah, he needs to put his foot down.
Yeah, he needs to put his foot down. He needs to be that ruthless. He needs to be that ruthless champion he's been.
And I think he will, though, Wajid. I think he will. I think it's just time. I think this is like David said. I think this is just. I've been here a couple of months. I don't know everyone yet. I don't want to go rattling the cage and smashing my bars around. I want to just break everyone in gently, and then when they know that I'm pissed, they're going to know I'm pissed.
I think it'll happen in Japan.
Yeah, maybe.
No,
it can't carry on anyway because he won't part with this shit every race. That's for sure.
I think in Japan it's going to happen because it's just gone from like near enough a perfect Friday or Saturday to a total clusterfuck where you effectively.
Well, not effectively. You've got no points. You've both been disqualified.
You've left them
again. Disqualifications. What are they down to? They're not down to the drivers. They're not down to the management. They're not down to the team fundamentally. They're down to operations. We're back to operational again.
And to have two disqualifications for two different technical regulation infringements is atrocious.
Yeah, and I heard all the Ferrari fans over the weekend say, "Oh, but it was only 0.5 of a millimetre. You can't really account for that." Yes, you fucking can. These guys work in 0.1 millimetre measurements. All the other teams seem to be able to do it okay, didn't they? And they've been doing it okay for the last 4 years.
Well, the one
ridiculous.
Thing I would say is
but Charles couldn't do enough pickup on the rubber. Why not? Everyone else did it.
Well, this was the one thing because obviously Gasly fell with the underweight as well.
Yeah.
But I do wonder what this setup change that Charles suggested on Saturday. I'm not saying this is Charles.
I don't think it was set up, though. I think it was fuel. I think it's purely down to fuel. They underfuel the cars, right? And they always underfuel the car. All of the teams do.
Yeah.
In China, in particular, large chance of safety car coming out. So they then underfuel based on the fact they're going to be under safety car for at least 3 laps. And then because they don't want to carry around an extra 3 kilos of fuel, why would they? But then, if that's the case, manage it through the race then. Because we didn't get a safety car, and it looked more and more likely as the race went on we weren't going to get one. So then manage the fuel like everyone else does. How have you ended up 1 kilo short? That's ridiculous. You're a professional Formula 1 team, for crying out loud.
We've seen people fall. I mean, Mercedes fell with the underweight.
Yeah, with George.
Blaming it with
but that was slightly different.
But has this setup change that came in, was that something possibly to do with the ride height? Because obviously Charles is coming underweight. They've said it's due to fuel, but they'll say anything to get somebody off the back. And secondly, then Lewis has been done because of the overwear of the plank. So it must have been something to do with getting this car closer to the ground, which
of course, and they all try and get the car as close as they can to the ground because it seals the air underneath the car, which gives it more downforce, because that's where we're getting a lot of downforce now, is from the ground effect. Yeah. And the closer you get the side of the car to the ground, the more it seals the air in there, which means better pressure, which means faster car. So they're all trying to do it, but at the same time, they're all under the same regulations, and no one else is making these mistakes. And I just find it, once it's like, okay, get a bit unlucky now and again, right? 0.4 of a millimetre, 0.5, I get it, okay. Underfueling the car and then not managing that through that's unforgivable. You're a professional Formula 1 team. Everyone else has to do that. Just do it. Why is it always Ferrari as well? I know Alpine got done this time, but why is it always Ferrari that fuck up these operational things?
It always seems... I mean, I remember back to when Mercedes...
I'm not even a Ferrari fan, I'm getting upset about it.
And Red Bull would sort of trying to do different things because they didn't think they quite had the pace to win. But then, if they'd done exactly what Mercedes had done, they would have been close. And it kind of feels like that with Ferrari, because they're feeling like they've got to do that extra bit.
Okay, sure, but then get a few wins under your belt. Be in a position where you can do that and take some risks because the championship's at stake. Round 2 of the season, I mean, okay, you could argue the other way around because you could say, there's still 22 races, so we'll take some risks now while we can. But at the same time, surely momentum is a big thing in F1. And has been in terms of winning world championships. Ferrari know that. They've won world championships based on momentum before, where they've won, the first 4 or 5 races of the season, and that's helped them carry through the rest of the year when they've only won 2 or 3 more. They know this shit. It's not rocket science. Like, we've been around a long time now, and I'm just very frustrated that I think 2 fabulously world-class drivers are being wasted in a team which can't get its shit together. And it's just frustrating as a fan to watch. And I'm not even a Ferrari fan per se, I'm an F1 fan. But it's frustrating for me to watch because I just want to see them compete. And when they make operational errors like this, and like they did with strategy in Australia, I mean, how many points is that now they've lost, that they've thrown away? That's got to be a good 60, 70 points they've thrown away in 2 races. That's too many already. What if they lose the championship by 50 points? Yeah. That's where it is, crystallised in 2 races. Awful.
On the Twitch chat, Friday didn't account for the weight of a white HP logo.
Good old Tokdo.
Do not start on the white logo.
And also, just to sort of finally add, I think the frustration from us as F1 fans is we don't want to see another one team sort of dominate, or even a one team.
Not unless you're that team fan, right? Yeah, of course, I get that, but I'm an F1 fan first and foremost. I want it to be competitive.
And I think coming out of testing, should I say rather, and even on the Saturday, Ferrari genuinely look like at times they are there or thereabouts. I don't really listen to Charles's 310 or stuff like that. Maybe on the longer fuel runs they are. However, Lewis, in whatever conditions, showed the actual potential of the Ferrari, and I think that's the frustration. Well, in terms of my frustration as a fan, is there is a genuine chance of a 2-team, 4-driver, potentially 5 or 6 drivers. If George and Max get into the mix from consistency, but there's a genuine chance for the first time since 2010, Seb's first world title, that there is 4 or 5 or even 6 drivers from multiple manufacturers that can genuinely challenge for the world title.
I agree.
And one team is not there, not because the drivers aren't good enough, not because the car's not quick enough, not because of anything else except of internal implosion. And that's sort of my frustration as a fan, not as a technical expert. That's my frustration as a fan, because there's genuine potential in this being a fantastic season.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. We're going to move on to 2 drivers who are high up in the championship right now, second and third. George, we've obviously talked a lot about Red Bull, so we'll focus a bit more on George Russell, but obviously Max's consistency is there as well. Both sitting 9 and 10 points off Lando Norris in the championship. But like we've said before, we've hardly seen George, and he's just quietly... I think a few people expected Kimi to either turn up and thrash him or get destroyed by... But George seems to have stepped up a level from where he was, like, having the team back him as number 1 has really brought something out in Russell.
I'd like to say yeah, and I'd like to think that is the case. But I did find myself wondering over the weekend...
Where is he?
How good is that car?
Yeah.
And therefore, if Lewis was still in the team, would George be going even quicker as a result? Because he'd be pushed harder by Lewis. So that's in the back of my mind. I don't think it's true from the first 2 races, but it's in the back of my mind right now. It's just one of those things I'm going to hold for a few more races, and then maybe we look at it after the next 3 in a row, and then we kind of look back and go, okay, maybe that is a really good car. Because Mercedes... in this era, in this part of the hybrid era, have not gone well at the start of seasons, right? They've not had a good start to a season. Their car's never been sorted from day one. It's taken them 3, 6, 12 races to become competitive in the previous 3 years. Yet this year, they've hit the ground running. They've not fucked around with stupid no side pods. They've just built a nice car, well balanced apparently, does well on its tyres, doesn't chew them all up in hot conditions anymore, doesn't work overly well in cooler conditions compared to the hotter conditions, seems to work across the broad range of compounds as well, which is great. Qualifies pretty decently, frankly. I mean, he's been within a tenth of the pole sitter in both races and in the sprint, and he's had 2 podiums in a row. So yes, I would like to agree with you. I'd like to say yes, he has stepped up, but I don't think he was bad before. I thought he was a great driver. I said that when he moved to Mercedes. I think, I said straight away I thought he would match or beat Lewis over the seasons that he'd be with him, and he did. And I still don't think he gets enough credit for that. It's still too memey about him, and the focus has been elsewhere on McLaren, obviously. And that's actually quite good for him, because it means that he can just focus on doing his job. And that's exactly what he's done, isn't it, for the 3 races that we've had, the sprint and the... I joked about it, but I genuinely don't remember ever the TV camera going and see him in the car, other than when he finishes the race. And I'm like, how did he get 3rd? Where did he get that from? Like, how did he just go about his business really quietly? And the other person that's done it, and I'm sure we'll come on to other... But Alex Albon is almost identical. I haven't seen him in any of the races, but he's now led a race for the first time in Formula 1, and also his team have led first time in 10 years. He's gradually got out there and got 16 points, which is more than he got in the entirety of last season, and he's outpacing his highly experienced Grand Prix winning teammate and making him look like he's pretty bang average, frankly. And I think this is astonishing for these 2. And they both came up together. They both were very highly rated junior drivers. And even though George won the F3 and the F2 titles back to back, if you ask any of the kids that came up with him, Jack Aitken, Lando Norris, George Russell himself, they'll all tell you the best driver they drove against was Alex Albon.
Yeah.
And maybe we're starting to see the pair of them do exactly what they said they would do when they came to Formula 1.
Mentioned in chat, actually true, Anthony got more camera time and driver of the day.
I mean please don't... I hope no one would bring this up now. Because it's absurd. Why did a driver who started 8th on the grid and finished 8th on the grid get driver of the day? Someone please explain this to me.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Well,
I mean, I'm the biggest Antonelli fan, right? I am the massive Antonelli fan. I'll defend him to ever. But my God, he did not deserve to get driver. This driver of the day was for Australia. They were still voting for Australia. That's what they were doing. They weren't voting for it. They weren't even watching this Grand Prix. Because if they had, they'd have gone, well, he can't get driver of the day. He's literally finished where he started. He's done no overtaking and he's finished behind his teammate by 1 billion miles. And, by the way, beaten by a Haas. You can't get driver of the day when you get beaten by a Haas.
Very true.
Sorry, I'm just going to...
And scene.
And blood pressure tablet.
God.
It's just absurd. It really is. Like, for fuck's sake.
I mean, it was mad, and I don't think Kimi Antonelli will be going away remembering 2025's Chinese Grand Prix fondly. You know, I mean, he ended up for about 42 seconds off.
He was
He was basically Checo Perez.
He was
right?
nowhere.
He was Checo Perez
You had
to his Max Verstappen in this race,
had-
and he got driver of the day for it.
You had the front five. You literally had the front five in terms of the front six. Sorry, in terms of the two Ferraris, the two McLarens, Max and George, and then you had everyone else. Now, you know, I would say Antonelli's start has been okay.
Yeah, it's been fine.
Like
Nothing spectacular.
like
I think he had a
nothing-
really good race in Australia in tricky conditions. But this was a solid finish, nothing more.
Yeah, nothing. I would say, you know, Albon's drives have been far more impressive in that Williams, and he's been there longer. But he's not
Wajid,
getting-
I'm at the risk of upsetting Rocket Powered Mohawk. The window licker should have got driver of the day over fucking Antonelli. Like, it's impossible that you give him driver of the day. I'm sorry to keep on about this, but really, holy fuck.
Well,
Bierman could have got driver of the day. I could have got my nan. She's been dead 30 years. She could have got driver of the day in that race.
God rest her soul.
I mean, I've got to say one thing. I mean, you know, obviously the disqualifications have helped. Obviously, Ocon getting a brilliant fifth. We will go into that in a second. Albon, as you've already mentioned, 7th. Carlos Sainz getting appointed 10th. But what we
After
heard
disqualification of 3 people, by the way.
Yes, but we did hear over the weekend that Albon got the chassis from the test.
Okay.
And
I'd still give Sainz driver of the day, by the way. I'm still not finished.
Sainz obviously driving a 2024 chassis that's been modified.
Yes,
So that-
they're all modified Williams. Williams have stayed with the same chassis, by the way.
I heard that 2025
Nope.
is a new chassis.
Nope.
No.
They're using last year's chassis on both cars. Modifieds, but they are last year's chassis. Guarantee you. Got that from a source at Williams who actually built them.
There
Yeah.
we go then.
Yeah. What do you know, biatch?
I know now.
I thought I told you that a couple of weeks ago. There's
I
2
honestly-
teams apparently that are using last year. I don't know who the other... I thought it was Haas, but it's not Haas. And now I think it's Sauber, but they haven't confirmed either.
Well,
to
to be fair, it could have been Racing Bulls.
to add on.
No, they're using almost the
using-
entirety of last year's
yeah,
Red Bull.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, that's why they're so good.
Yeah. I just want to sound slightly calmer.
Please don't talk about Antonelli's driver of the day.
Antonelli's driver today. Just to be sort of calm, just to be like, slightly. I understand the emotional frustration that Paul has just shown. Given, like, how is Ocon's drive so far under the radar?
I know, right?
Especially given how the both Haas's were in Australia.
They were garbage in Australia. They were the 10th car out of 10. In fact, they were the 11th fastest car out of 10 in Australia. They were awful.
Awful, yeah. Or like Ocon was phenomenal on Sunday.
Yeah.
He extracted everything, was thereabouts. So yeah, it's like, listen, sorry we didn't give it to you in Australia. We didn't actually expect you to go that far.
I think that's exactly what it is. I really do.
Yeah, after the rain
Yeah.
showed up. So here it is. Here it is this week. But Antonelli needs to. He does need to start like picking up a bit now. okay, cool, I get it, rookie, etc., but
Yeah.
you know, as I sort of alluded to at the start of the season, he's coming in with Lewis Hamilton levels of hype, generational talent.
Yeah.
Sorry, not like Lewis and sort of Max is the last sort of teenage sensation that's coming with this level of hype, and the hype so far has not translated. Like, don't get me wrong, he was good in Australia.
Yeah.
But his result in Australia, because I didn't talk about it, his result in Australia was flattered by Ferrari being Ferrari. Not because Antonelli drove up there. Like, you know, Ferrari decided.
But he also did make the most overtakes. So
no, I'm not taking that. I'm not taking that away. But it would have been like a distant sixth rather than a really strong fourth. You know, because, you know, Ferrari went,
Ferrari went full Ferrari.
Yeah, Ferrari went full Ferrari. And just sort of touching on sort of George Russell, can we please stop doing Max Verstappen versus George Russell in a press conference? Dude,
Yes, that would be great, wouldn't it?
We get it. They don't like each other. They do not like each other. They're not going to be friends. They're not on each other's Christmas cards. It might be a couple of years. We get it. Guys.
I would like Drive to Survive to do a piece on those two, because then it would actually be a legit story.
Yeah, okay, like leave it to Drive to Survive.
Yeah, let them do the whole they hate each other thing. Let them do that.
We totally missed it on Lewis's, but FOM play every radio feed out. There was absolutely no need whatsoever to make it out as if Ferrari had enforced team rules in the second race of the season, when Lewis has openly and categorically said, I will do the change. Yes, Ferrari again bundled it because they're like, okay, yeah, so do you know the S section before you get to the DRS? No, we don't overtake on the long ass 3 kilometers straight, which neither one of you will lose that much time. No. Do it in the middle of the tight, twisty second section where you're going to lose the most time possible. Both of you guys. So if you want to be Ferrari, fine. But like, we don't need to stage shit. Just leave it to Drive to Survive. And that, like, I understand the success for Drive to Survive, but keep Drive to Survive as it is. A Netflix series that brings in casuals, that puts casual eyes on the sport of F1 to dramatize it, to entice people to watch the race. But can we keep the racing and the radio calls to that? Can we keep it to race? Can we keep it to racing?
Yeah, and going back to racing, also in terms of Kimi, we're on about, you know, these drivers, these teams should be looking at it and going, we need to be first to eighth. You know, those positions should be locked out by those teams at the top. And if they're not, and they're getting beaten by somebody in the hands of Andrea Antonelli, for his full name, Kimi, be beaten by Ocon in a car that qualified on back road to Australia. I don't know. I think that maybe didn't flatter Haas, but I think Australia was so poor when it is better than that kind of thing. But the distance behind Max and George is something obviously to jump on. So we'll now quickly look at Haas. Haas obviously coming home 5th and 8th. A really good comeback from them. 14 points from an Australian Grand Prix, which was absolutely... I think Gene Haas was ready to pull his team out of Formula One after the Australian performance. But this team seems to be working well together, which is very strange to say when Ocon's on board, isn't it, Paul?
In some ways, but I think he's got a lot of experience now in F1. He's a race winner. We always joke about the fact that he seems to be able to take his team out no matter what he drives, which has certainly been true while he was at Alpine and while he was at Renault and while he was at Force India, Racing Point before that. But I've always wondered how he would go if the if he was the team leader. And basically, as good as I think Ollie Beerman is, he's not a team leader yet. He's obviously in his first full season. And now Esteban is that driver. He is that. He's the focus. He's the leader. He's the guy that the team go to and say, what should we do? Should we change tyres early? What strategy should we involve? What did you do when you were at Alpine? How do you go on the softer tyres? Is this setup change going to work? Do you think we should do this on both cars? He's now that guy that they go to. So I think that's a whole new thing for him. He's not experienced that before. And he seems to be really loving that, and that's made him a little bit calmer. It seems to have made his driving better as well. I think he drove, actually, if you analyse Australia, he drove really well. But the car was not underneath him at all in those conditions. That car is terrible in those conditions, by the way. Probably the worst car on the grid in those conditions. Fortunately, in race pace, and we had this when they were at in testing in Bahrain, they were the 9th fastest car on speed alone through the traps, right? But they were the 6th best car on the long fuel runs. So there was obviously something inherently good about the car, but they weren't able to unlock it over single laps, and they weren't able to lock it in cool conditions. So now we've had a bit of a warmer condition. Suddenly those cars have come alive. But I also think, yes, there are some other mitigating circumstances. Ferrari shit in the bed again. Alpine shit in the bed, Aston Martin shit in the bed. Those are all helping Haas move forward because they aren't the 5th best team. No. The fact that we've got the 5th fastest team in Formula 1 right now is Racing Bulls, and they've done absolutely bugger all in 2 races. They've got 3 points between the two of them over 3 races. That's awful because that team should have scored an absolute hatful of points in all the races so far, both Grand Prix and the sprint. They haven't, and that's partly why the teams like Haas have scored points, like Sauber have scored good points. And they have to, frankly, at the start of this season. They're going to have to grab those opportunities because they might not get another opportunity like that to have a 5th place. They might not get another one for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
So I think it's great that they've got it now.
It's very much Haas's Brazilian Grand Prix for Alpine kind of thing.
Yeah.
Wajid, Paul did not know I was going to talk about him next, but RB, Hajar, decent weekend, showing his pace again, wasn't terrible overall, and then Tsunoda, again, showing that he probably should be in Red Bull. But then the strategy call. Why do you do that with both drivers when it's perfectly clear that everybody else is trying to do a one-stop?
Something about former Italian-based teams that shit in the bed. Maybe they're sharing the same Maybe they're sharing the same data analyst and strategy and economist. Maybe that's why the economy is where it is. Because Tsunoda was going to handily beat Hajar if his front wing didn't decide to spontaneously combust out of absolutely nowhere. I don't know what they were looking at in terms of the data. You could clearly see every single team was doing the one stop, and every team, like, I think very early on in the radio messages the fans got, the teams were saying the degradation is not as bad as we expected. The deg is not as bad as we expected. The new tarmac clearly mitigated a lot of the old degradation we usually get at China. So maybe next year it'll be sort of back to some sort of not normality, but your regular schedule programming once there's more races that have like worn into the track. And like the DRS was still too short to clearly overtake everyone. Clearly, the dirty air is now becoming a thing, a factor to think about with the cars again. And the tire difference and the speed difference and time difference and the compound difference between the medium and the hard was so minuscule anyway that making like everything said don't make the second pit stop. And I'm just like a fan, and I could see all that. So I don't know what the hell Red Bull saw. And to sort of follow on from Paul's point, if you're going to do it, do it with one car and see what that car produces. Most likely with Hajar, because he was the second car. And if Hajar is overtaking left, right, and center, bring in Tsunoda. Let Tsunoda do his thing, and then if you're so bothered about Sonoda being Hadjar or because Sonoda's further ahead, if Sonoda gets the Hadjar, you just swap the cars. Hadjar gets his praise for the drive he's done on the second pit, and you don't piss everyone off by giving someone the second driver the better strategy. So I don't know what was done, what was spoken about, what they saw when they brought their car in, but it just turned into a total clusterfuck. Obviously, that being said, Jack Doohan is from the same driving school as Max Verstappen, clearly. So, cool. But was Hadjar going to drive past Science afterwards? Given the sort of meal he was making past Doohan? Probably not. So it's just Ferrari. It's just total Ferrari syndrome with the second Red Bull, which is you guys should clearly be fifth at this moment in time. Like far and away, you should be fifth in your own bubble, and yet somehow I don't think they've scored any points.
3 points.
So three points. Like it's just pathetic.
They're behind Haas, Williams, and Sauber.
In
fact, the only team they're ahead of right now is Alpine.
Yeah, because they've not scored. Yeah. I knew it was one or the other.
It's one of them moments where you got to take advantage of the car you've got because you'll regret it later on. But I suppose with RB, it's much more. At the end of the day, they don't really care what that team scores. It's about developing the drivers, and in terms of Red Bull, not RB themselves. So it's an interesting one. It'd be, let's see. Obviously, we're thinking of swapping Tsunoda and Lawson. We think that's going to be confirmed for Suzuka. Whether it gets confirmed later on will be all down to the money. But there's one more driver who we've said George Russell. Haven't seen him all season. Alex Albon, haven't seen him all season. There's one more driver who I want to bring up, and I never thought I'd be saying this in any Grand Prix podcast ever. Lance Stroll, welcome to Formula One. He's stepped up this season, beaten, or at least been on pace with Alonso in the first two races, and not still been in interviews looking completely disinterested. But Paul, he's a top scorer. He's in the top 10 of points right now.
Yeah, okay.
Do you not think he's had a good start to the season?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I suppose. I don't know. I mean, look at it at the end of the season and see if he's ahead of Alonso then, I guess. And if he is, then, I don't know, maybe Fernando should retire or hurt himself or something. I don't know, but he shouldn't be finishing behind Stroll, should he, over a season?
No.
He's had 2 retirements out of 2. One of them was his own fault.
Yeah.
So frustrating start for Fernando more than it is a great start for. I think what it shows is that they're not quite as slow as they thought they might be in testing. Because at one point over the weekend of testing, they were the 8th fastest team, and then when they actually did long race runs, they were 10th, which was really worrying for them. They were behind even the Saubers, which was awful. And we've seen them in a race or two now, and they've been awful. So I think they're better than that, luckily for them. They still haven't got their qualifying shit together. And they really should be the 5th best team, but they've been showing no form. They've probably been 7th on pace, maybe 8th. So from that point of view, to see that Stroll got that many points, I suppose, yeah, it is good. But 3 disqualifications.
Yeah.
Ferrari shit the bed in Australia. Have given him about 90% of his points. So, has he been driving that well? I would say not. Certainly no better than anything before, anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
although he's a wet weather specialist, apparently.
I'm not saying this is a Formula One renaissance by Lance Stroll, but
I mean, I hope not, because there's a certain guy with a mohawk who's just going to top himself if he ends up winning the championship. That guy is out of here. Never mind HMRC chasing him for tax money. He's literally done.
No, it won't be happening that far. But Wajid, could this be down to Lance's qualifying form? Because obviously we've seen him race decently, but being like 18th, 19th. He's been getting through to Q2, popping it 10th on the grid for the sprint. Is it this kind of maybe because you're doing a little bit better in qualifying, you can get them better race results, and maybe we just ignored him a little bit?
No.
Okay.
Moving on.
It's not, because what he qualified 14th, like,
Which is good for him. He normally doesn't make it out of Q1.
Lawson at the moment is a guaranteed 20th, right?
Average grid position.
To add in there, has a worse average group position than
Nikita Mazepin. Yeah. So that's already one spot. The Saubers are awful, right? Like they're just bad. So that's already 3 of the 5 elimination spots already gone.
Yeah.
Like it's like, do you know how bad you have to be to this year at this moment in time to not make it out of Q1? Like you have to be awful. So let's take it as, you know,
He's not awful.
All right, so let's take it from 15th onwards. He beat Carlos Sainz. Okay, cool. You beat the Spaniard in a new car who is still learning the car, which has a lot less downforce than the car you've driven for the last 3 years. Cool, brilliant. And this race, 3 cars got disqualified, which led him to
7th.
Check the 7th. Cool. You
No,
got
7th.
Yeah.
Cool. So you
Seventh.
were going to finish 10th.
No.
9th was Lance.
Oh yeah, because he already finished ahead of Gasly.
He finished ahead of Gasly. My fault.
Yeah.
Cool. You're going to get 2 points. And from what, like, he was in the middle of nowhere. That being said, I think Alonso's time is totally done. I don't think he deserves an Adrian Newey car next year, but I'll be honest, that's a topic for maybe later on in the season, because it's just pathetic.
Channeling your own inner Johnny Herbert there, are you?
I mean, I am going to let you all know that I have not been asked by Lawrence Stroll or paid by Lawrence Stroll to say these things. I just think he's actually, you know, he hasn't bitten back at any of the comments or anything like that, but it's decent, even though his interviews are still completely uninterested.
When your standard is already on the floor, given your body of work, and all you've done is improved on what your body of work is, then yes, it's good comparatively to what you've produced. But in the grand scheme of things, it's still not great. So it depends how you look at it. If you are comparing to his body of work, then yeah, absolutely, it's a good start. It's a good start to the season. It's a good start to the season. And
have you ever had a really good shit, David?
Excuse me.
Moving on.
Because it's still a shit after all, isn't it? That's the point.
On.
Right. Yes, moving on. I think we've actually covered everybody, apart from obviously Jack Doohan deciding that he couldn't brake for a corner, but that's covered.
You mean Jack Verstappen?
So, Max
Doohan.
And we're not talking about the Saubers.
We have a new... no, we're not talking about Saubers this week. Alex Albon, we mentioned he led a Grand Prix lap.
Yeah.
His first lap by Williams since 2015 British Grand Prix.
Yeah.
And it was his 29th birthday.
It was.
Meaning he was the 9th different driver to lead a lap on his birthday. And Oscar Piastri, if he leads a lap in Japan, will make it 10.
And also, if he wins, will be the 3rd driver in history to win on his birthday. There's only 2 since have won.
Yes, I was
one of them is one of my favourite drivers of all time, so that was really easy to remember.
I am going to throw this out there.
Yes.
It could have been a lot more, because the drivers who have led on their birthday, we've got Clay Regazzoni in 1971, James Hunt in 76.
Who did win on his birthday.
Who did win, in the Netherlands. Ron Lacey, who won in Canada 95 for his only Grand Prix victory. Hakkinen in Luxembourg in 97. he actually retired from the lead. I think he took pole for that race.
Yeah, that was the weird. That was the weird race, wasn't it?
Yeah, because the two Schumachers hit each other in the first corner.
Well,
Then
Ralph
you had
decided
to-
he would become a pole vaulting Williams, didn't he? Whee!
No, that wasn't pole vaulting Williams. That was.
Oh no, that was Australia. That was.
You're thinking
That was Australia first corner.
Luxembourg '97 was where the Jordan qualified really well and then took Michael off.
Indeed.
You're thinking.
Then we had to wait another.
I'm thinking of the Williams when he was at Williams.
You're thinking,
Australia.
Yeah, Australia.
Yeah, Kovalainen in China 2008.
Wow. Okay, that one I wouldn't have remembered.
Vettel in Austria 2016. Verstappen in Russia 2018. Seitz in Italy in 2024. And obviously Albon now. So there's a couple of ones there which could, if we remember rightly, Seitz in last year's Italian Grand Prix was in contention for victory.
He was,
Obviously Charles took it. We could have had Hakkinen, who was on pole in Luxembourg '97.
Max could have won his.
Just to add, Luxembourg was not in Luxembourg; it was in Germany.
No, it wasn't. It was in Germany.
Get over it.
Bit like the Swiss Grand Prix when it was at Dijon in France.
Yes. So, actually, reading all of that out, the closest any have been is like Seitz and Albon. Actually, we're talking about 10 events.
I mean, Hakkinen should have won.
Yeah. Oh, no, in terms of winning, in terms of
okay.
closeness, in terms of time. And now we may get 2 in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Okay, we have got 25 races.
Yeah.
Potentially. Let's not throw out commentators' curse.
But if Piastri wins, he's only the third driver to win on his birthday. That's amazing when you think there's been well over 700 drivers and well over 100 winners now. And 75, we're in our 76th season.
Yeah, and just for fans in the chat, Bortoletto, he's still not doing terribly. Right, now on to the rest.
No. You can't just do that.
Yes,
the man's out-qualified a proven qualifier twice.
Okay.
He's out-qualified him twice.
Okay.
Hello?
Okay,
At the start of his career in a shit car.
Next.
I think Bortoletto's doing great.
I'm giving the same
I
amount
do
of time
actually
they've
think
given
he's
the
doing.
season.
I think he's doing a really good job.
Comparatively, he's doing better than Antonelli.
But the one thing I would say is he hasn't took advantage and got the points like Nico did. I know that doesn't matter for a rookie.
Bit lucky in Australia though. Let's be fair.
Take. You've got to be there.
Sure. Yeah, it could have been the other way around. I get that, but still, that can't be a criticism of Bortoletto and the way he's driven so far.
No,
he's shown the pace. Has Antonelli out qualified George Russell yet?
That's why I had Bortoletto as my rookie of the year.
Just saying.
True. And is also the reason why I keep thinking Kimi's not all that. But we will move on to predictions now.
Just to put it out there. I think Kimi's good. My thing has always been, even from last year onwards, I didn't see what the hype was about. That was my thing.
We will soon find out. Because right now, for some reason, my Twitch has just said you have not been invited to stream this together. So, Paul, we're not connected anymore, apparently.
Are we not? Right, I'll
but
try.
We're still on there.
I'll try and fix it.
In terms of the predictions, qualifying predictions going along the bottom of the screen. So, this is for the general Grand Prix qualifying before anybody asks.
There you go. Did that do something?
I will check. Yes, I've just been invited. I'll press join again and see whether it works. We always try things in technology this way.
Yeah. Hopefully that works for you.
Fingers crossed. But then you go and have a look at the comments.
Oh God, is it prediction checking time?
Yes, it is prediction checking time. So, last time out of 30 predictions, we got 2 points.
Was that me and you?
All.
Yeah.
I think it was me and you, yeah. And Wajid was on 0, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
I thought I got 1.
Or did you get one?
Was it me and you that got 1 and David didn't get 1? Right,
I thought I got 1.
I thought
he's keeping a spreadsheet apparently, so maybe I haven't scored then.
I've got you down as 0 at the moment.
Really? Okay, fine. Yeah, I knew it was one of us didn't get anything, so that's fine.
Wait, sorry.
He's just trying to make us forget.
Wait, you got me down as 0, sorry.
No, he's got me down as 0.
Oh, right. Okay, sorry.
Which is, yeah, whatever.
So, we'll just... where's the results gone? There we go. It's hidden underneath that screen. So, top 5 in qualifying. 5th was Lewis Hamilton.
Oh, shit. I got a point.
You did get a point. 4th was Max Verstappen. 3rd was Lando Norris. 2nd was George Russell. And 1st was Oscar Piastri. So, we had Wajid, who had Lewis, Russell, then Verstappen, no, Leclerc, and Norris, no. I had Verstappen. Oh, no, that's wrong position. Russell 4th, no. 3rd Hamilton, no. 2nd Piastri, no. Norris 1st. Oh God, okay. And
Paul had Russell 5th, Leclerc 4th, Piastri 3rd, no. Verstappen 2nd, no. Norris. So out of a grand of 15. Yeah.
And also to throw it out there, so that was not meant to come up. That is just literally the scores I'm keeping track of on here.
It's 2-1-0.
Yes, it's now 2-1-0.
Awful, isn't it, guys?
Sweeping.
What are we doing?
Paul, you were right on the McLaren. You just got them the wrong way around.
Yeah. So did you, though? I think, didn't you?
No, because I had.
okay.
Actually, did I? No, I had a 1-2 for McLaren.
No. You were no, Dave. You were the one that was right. You just got them the wrong way around.
No, I didn't. Because
yeah, I definitely got them the wrong way around.
Wait, was it you that had Norris? I'd tell you more.
Yeah.
It's right in front of you on the screen.
Yeah, I had Norris on pole.
Now. It says David. I knew I wasn't fucking crazy. So
yeah, there's me, Verstappen, Russell.
Yeah, you've got
Piastri and Norris in 2nd and 1st.
You have the McLarens the wrong way around, which is what I said.
Yeah, and then so do I, but I had him 3rd and 1st.
Yeah, and the 2 McLarens were 3rd and 1st.
Yeah.
Russell was on the front row.
Yeah, but I had them the other way round.
Yeah, so what I was saying is Paul had the two team cars in the right position.
I had them in the right spots, but the wrong drivers.
We got there in the end, right?
I don't think we get half a point for that, so let's move on.
No, you don't.
Let's just move. We're really rubbish for that.
We really are bad, aren't we?
And I think, what was that comment?
Sorry, it says kick Alpine, RB, and I think the 6 of the bottom 7 drivers. Also, I think Suzuki will favour top line speed, good for Williams and the Mercs.
Yeah,
yeah, and it should be cold. It normally is quite cold at this time of year in Suzuka.
Well, it's normally
wet.
It's monsoon season, isn't it?
Let's throw out the race results. So 5th, Esteban Ocon. Let's just not bother with 5th because we all got that wrong. Mind you, I got Albon.
No one would have got 5th. You went with Albon for 5th, which is closer to Ocon than anyone else. And I went with Lawson.
What's worrying is Paul saw the Australian Grand Prix and went, it can only be one race, can't it?
Yeah, he can't do it again. Sure, oh well.
I think what's the worst thing for Lawson as well is it's not just one race, it's 3 qualifying sessions. Because in sprint qualifying, he wasn't anywhere near.
Dave, Paul, in total fairness, you were only one DQ away from Ocon being fit.
Yeah.
To be fair,
yeah.
In the wrong race, but you know.
Yeah, I know.
He was only 6 DQs.
I mean, I'm really annoyed with the order, by the way. Can we just go through this order? Because I'm really annoyed by the order that it's finished in.
Okay, here we go.
When you look at my predictions of the top 4.
If we took away 6 more drivers, Lawson would have been 5th.
Well, I had all the original 5 drivers in the top 5, and then just the wrong one.
Yeah, so Russell, Ocon 5th, Verstappen 4th.
Yeah.
Russell 3rd, Norris, and then Piastri.
Yeah. So I had the top 4, and the first 2 reversed, and the 3rd and 4th reversed. Otherwise, I get 4 points.
And the worst driver currently going in Formula 1.
All right. We can overlook 5th, can't we?
So I had Russell 5th, no. Piastri 4th, no. Norris 3rd, no. Verstappen 2nd, no. Leclerc 1st, of course not. No point. Dave.
But I was much closer in the point that I had.
Albon 5th, Russell 4th, Verstappen third.
So I got them
Hamilton
two
second.
Yeah,
Norris
so you got
first.
all of them wrong.
Yeah.
And then I came closest. My point is this. Fourth, Russell. No, Verstappen. Third, Verstappen. No, Russell. Second, Piastri. No, Norris. First, Norris. No, Piastri.
Yeah, but how many points does that equate to?
4.
No, right.
So
And,
None. I've done 2 Grand Prix and not got a single freaking prediction right. I should be fired. Why do you have me on?
Because
Is it the token ginger just to fulfil the disabled quota or something? I mean, why have you got me on this program if I can't predict anything? What's the point?
We've got you on for one reason only, because we need somebody who remembers before 1997.
Barely.
Also, insider trading and insider information.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, but I've only got 3 teams. I can't do it for any of the other
So
teams.
hold up.
Out of 60 predictions,
I'm still waiting, by the way, on the other thing from a message back that should be telling me like the whole thing is going on, and I haven't got one.
yeah, we've got 60 predictions in the first 2 rounds.
And we've got 3.
We've got 3 points.
That's 0.5%. Well done, lads. We've done well. We've really done really well there.
To be fair, we just feel sorry for you, so what we're doing is keeping it close.
Okay, that's really nice of you, that's kind, lads. But don't do that because I'm gonna cream you at one of these events, and I'm gonna get all 10, and then you're gonna be behind by miles.
I hate no one creaming me. Hey yo. Hey yo.
And on that note,
right, for everybody who is still watching, Japanese Grand Prix will be next.
it's gotten late.
It won't be this weekend. It's next.
No, it's not.
Weekend.
It's next weekend,
Finally
and then we have 3 in a row.
And then we
3
have
in a row.
Japan, Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia. Thank God I'm not somebody having to travel that. Good luck to the teams who have that.
I still don't understand why they didn't do China to Japan. It's a couple of hours, you know. It's like, why have he gone that way, flown home, and then flown back out again? Yeah,
You'd
that's
be
saving
surprised
the
how
planet.
many
Well done,
actually-
guys.
You'd be surprised. I don't think many of them will actually go home in between.
No,
But,
they'll probably have a little holiday in between, I would imagine.
I am going to say this one thing. We've got next Tuesday, obviously, we'll have a preview to Japan, which won't be 60 hours long.
I mean, this
We
doesn't
keep
make
saying we're
sense.
going to keep it down to an hour, but Red Bull took 40 minutes on Thursday.
I mean,
I
an hour and a half. Not in fairness, an hour and a half's not too bad.
yeah, it's not too bad for us, but we'll do better.
Driver of the day took 20 minutes.
Yeah, and we couldn't really do flop of the day because Liam Lawson had got it already.
No! Sorry. I'm calm now.
Well, clearly he has. He no longer has his. He no longer has his.
Can we
seat.
do that next week? Can I do predictions for Japan? Driver of the day, Liam Lawson.
It probably will be in a racing ball.
Yeah, watch him be driver of the day, and you keep
Yep.
doing it.
You watch him win the race in a race.
He'll be on the podium in the racing balls, be like, oh god. Well, that worked, didn't it? This
Yeah,
was
but-
his plot all along. He was like, I don't want this Red Bull, I want to be in the other car.
Let's say Yuki did get him a Red Bull, which we're
Yeah.
expecting him to do so, and he gets
Yeah.
a podium.
Yeah.
What's going to stop everybody just going, yeah, but it's a Japanese Grand Prix. Japanese drivers always go well.
Yeah.
so they go.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're not going to keep everybody else here
What a
that long because we'll be going all day. Thank you, Wajid, for joining us. Thank you, Paul, for joining us again.
Pleasure as always.
We'll be doing it at a more sociable time from next week, hopefully. And we will catch up with the Road to F1 podcast at some point.
Yeah,
From
when they've done
Australia.
another round or two, and then we can
Yeah,
kind
they
of
have to.
assess where they're at.
They have to. They have to have a massive break for some reason. So
It's like a month.
yeah. So after Bahrain, did we go to Bahrain? I feel like we do.
Saudi, I think. F2, F3 don't.
F2 go to Saudi.
Yeah, F2 go to Saudi.
F2 always go to Saudi.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I
Bahrain.
don't
before
think
Saudi.
F3 do. Yeah. So Bahrain, Saudi, Imola for F2, and then F3 is Bahrain, but no Saudi, and then Imola. So yeah, so it's the same for F2, but they don't go to Saudi Arabia in between. So we'll do it after Imola maybe, because then we'll have had 3 of the F3 rounds, and that'll be a third of the way through the season already, amazingly, because they only have 10 rounds. and we'll have had 4 F2 rounds. So maybe we'll do it in.
It's not Imola. It's
May.
Emilia Romagna.
No, it's in the Emilia-Romagna region. It is at Imola.
And it will be.
It's
We're
not
not
the
going to
name of the
argue
Grand
about
Prix
that because
anymore. It's
that's
not the name of
another
the
half
Grand
an
Prix.
hour of
Not
podcast.
the name of the Grand Prix anymore.
Thank you, everybody.
It's
for
the
joining
world's
us.
longest Grand Prix name ever. That's all I know.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
On Paul's channel, on YouTube, and on Twitch. I've just realised, though, Paul, we could actually raid out on Twitch now. Just to be really awkward.
Yeah.
You can just pick somebody.
No, you can do it. It's fine.
Well, no, because you doesn't this.
Just pick someone.
Does
We
this
don't need
raid
another
both
10.
of us?
We don't need another.
No, you raid, but I can then raid as well. So it sends everyone that we've got in our pair of our channels to that place.
Well,
You just
right
need
now,
to tell me who it is.
At the moment, I'm trying to see who's on. So I've got to look under iRacing because nobody's under F1. Let's see who we've got here. Is Bemps on? No, he's not.
Not this time of the night, no. I don't know anyone that's on this time of the night. I'm going to probably leave mine and shut mine down anyway.
I'm gonna raid Bedrock, so you can all go
Right.
see Bedrock.
Let's do that then.
Our friendly man from New York, and from that point, we will see you next week, where we will again, to quote another F1 podcast, we will be last and will be wrong. So we'll see you all then.